In the year 2020, I started a podcast about movies. Some episodes occasionally focused on other media as well. As I dealt with threatening interdimensional beings, I eventually met my other self from another universe where all the stuff I talked about got delayed. As it turns out, the stories as me and my guests described them were presented very differently in that other universe. So I continued podcasting these recaps, which apparently sound like improvised reviews, to entertain listeners of that other universe while they waited for the new release dates. Some episodes even focused on content of years past that did not come out in that other universe for whatever reason. The year is 2022. The podcast is now bi-weekly, unless stated otherwise. My name is Shinder, and you're listening to Delayed Replay. Hello, listeners. Welcome to another episode of Delayed Replay, that podcast where we recap and review movies that got delayed in that other universe but came out on time in our universe. I'm your host, as always, Shinder, and joining me for this episode to talk about Shazam: Fury of the Gods, you've probably heard him before on some other episodes. It is Mr. Multiverse. How's it going?
Greetings, one and all. I'm happy to be here as always. This is one of my favorite podcasts to be a part of.
Well, I was expecting that, but yeah, I'm really glad to hear that. It's always fun to talk about these movies, and I feel like we each tend to have like interesting takes, and yeah, it's just cool to hear from different people about these movies on this podcast. So yeah, thanks for taking up the invite again.
No problem. I'm always happy to be on here. It's the least I could do for, just shameless spoiler, or no, not spoiler, crap, shameless plug. You have done podcasts for me, so I think it's only right that I, share the fun on this end.
Yeah, totally. So, I guess to start off, what are your, overall experiences with Shazam / Captain Marvel stories? Because, of course, he was originally called Captain Marvel. What have been your experiences with the character?
He's usually a character I always enjoy. He's one of my, if I was to rank my favorite superheroes, he would definitely be in the top 10. Captain Marvel is that super optimistic, but also untapped. It's every time. Very few writers these days know how to utilize him because he's so powerful. But at the same time, he's just happy. It's just fun to see him. It's so fun to see whenever this character just shows up, and it's just fun. It's just kind of that superhero archetype. But a lot of people forget of how that superhero archetype wasn't just Superman. It was Captain Marvel, of that Boy Scout kind of persona. So it's kind of nice, and I did love the first movie. So I was really happy to see it. I was really excited to see this one.
Yeah, I totally get what you mean about that Boy Scout archetype. We definitely get it with Superman. Well, at least some people utilize him the best, but with Captain Marvel / Shazam, it's that optimistic innocence, I guess you could say. And there's a really funny backstory about how the character was created by a different comic book company, and then creators of Superman. There's some legal stuff, but eventually Shazam, or Captain Marvel at the time, became part of DC later on, and so it was kind of a funny thing that happened where he and Superman became friends, a mentor and mentee at certain points, and it's just it's fun, and I love seeing Billy Batson and various animated stuff, and I think they made a good move changing the characterization in the 80s, where before then it was the adult version of him felt like a different person, but I like that they eventually changed it to where he's basically a man child. He still has the like kid mindset. He's just like in a adult body when he changes.
Yeah, it's fun that you bring that up of like, yeah, it used to be a different comic group, and then DC like absorbed literally Fawcett Comics into itself. That's what they did with the Charlton characters. Was because a lot of people forget that like Peacemaker and the Question and like a few other characters were under a group called Charlton Comics, and then they were taken over by DC and integrated into that universe. So this isn't like, and like they've done this before, like with a Milestone, they did this with some Image comic characters. Like DC, like a lot of people say, oh, Marvel absorbs everything. You have yet to see what DC's capable of.
They even like name the city like Fawcett City, at least in the comics, which is a fun little shout out. Like as far as the comics go, I've read more than half of The Power of Shazam, the 90s comic series. And I've read a couple of the stories from the 80s and his New 52 appearances throughout the Justice League series. So yeah, the first movie in retrospect felt like an amalgamation of like the 90s stuff and the New 52 stuff to me. What did you think of the first movie?
The first movie is definitely very much inspired by the Jeff Johns comic. It's fun. It's very lighthearted, which at the time DC desperately needed.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because like this was a movie that like people were like, when the moment the first trailer hit, everyone was like, oh thank God, oh my God, we were like, oh my God, I thought it was like gonna be just like more muted colors, more like swearing, more overtly dark moments, and then it turned out to be pretty fun.
It was very refreshing, and it was like a fun time. Like I definitely laughed out loud at certain points while watching it in the theater. So I guess we'll move on to the sequel then. So Shazam: Fury of the Gods. I wasn't expecting this, but like I guess because they released it on April Fool's Day, they thought they could get away with this. Like having a good chunk of the beginning of the movie be centered on Bat-Mite having an adventure. Like what was that all about?
It's kind of weird like having Bat-Mite in the story, but like it's kind of like having him here is kind of adding to the lightheartedness, but at the same time, it's kind of weird because why are we using Bat-Mite at all when he like if you want? I get like you couldn't do having Bat-Mite in the Batman or Batfleck; it makes no sense. But why is he here? Why? I mean, what could have made a little more sense was Nixit Pitlick or someone. There are tons of impish like fifth dimensional creatures you could have used. I guess because it's kind of fun to use Weird Al to have his Bat-Mite because that makes so much sense.
Yeah, like that casting was on point for sure. And he gets very meta and tries to justify his presence by being like, oh, this movie is about Billy Batson, so you gotta have Bat-Mite in here. Which was kind of flimsy, but I was just rolling with it.
Yeah. It also doesn't help that they try to do like the Fred Flintstone Great Kazoo thing. If you I sound old. All right, kids. For those who don't know what the Flintstones is, there was a season in the Flintstones where this alien called the Great Kazoo, this impish green character who only Fred could see, shows up and calls him Dum Dum, and that's what they do here with Billy and Bat-Mite.
Yeah, I know which character you're talking about. I think in the live action prequel movie they make him an alien or something, right? Or is he just always an alien?
Yeah, he is an alien, but he's like he's like got powers.
Right, yeah. Like he can like teleport with a snap of a finger or something, right?
Yeah, but like with Bat-Mite showing up here and Billy's like talking to him, like having these conversations as both him and as Shazam, people are like, what are you looking at, dude? And they're like, can you not see this? Oh my God, it's right here. It is right there in front of you. And they're like, what? And Bat-Mite's like, yeah, if I don't want to be seen, then I'm not going to be seen. Like, it's like no matter what, like, because Billy at first like goes, okay, everyone go Shazam. I hate that term, by the way, but like, go Shazam. Like, and then maybe you'll see it, and they still don't.
Yeah, and there's also a moment where he's like, "Oh my gosh, they can't see you. You're basically John Cena."
When he says, "Oh, you're like John Cena," and he's like, "Peacemaker isn't in this movie."
Yeah. Yeah, very much felt like I know people were comparing the first Shazam movie to Deadpool in terms of the tone, but this felt even more like Deadpool, just breaking the fourth wall like that.
Honestly, it's like it doesn't make any sense because like we don't know where the continuity's going with DC with the DCEU movie, so it's kind of like up in the air. And I think that the Bat-Mite thing is just kind of commentating on that.
Yeah, he basically makes some comments about like, "Oh, we don't know where we're going from here, but I'm just making a lot of trouble, having fun." And it's like, okay, whatever, DC.
There is some like actual story here with this character. I mean, not with this well, there is some stuff with this character. We'll get to him in a moment, but like, there's an actual story here in dealing with the gods. In that we have Calypso, and I cannot pronounce the other one's name.
Oh yeah, the other one's name is Hespera, I think.
Yeah, Hesperia. These two gods have like daughters of the gods are basically have come down from Olympus to hunt the Shazam family because their whole thing is like there should not be a champion, and the champion like they basically tell Billy right to his face, the whole champion of Shazam thing, that was a lie, because it turns out in here they reveal that the wizard Shazam stole the power of the gods. It wasn't they were given to him, they were stolen so he could seal away the 7 deadly sins.
Yeah, this revelation felt very Doctor Who to me. Like, at the end of the second Doctor's run, when it's revealed that, like, he basically ran away from his people, and later you find out, like, throughout the series that, like, he stole the TARDIS or whatever, and it felt like one of those neat backstory things that's kind of not what you expect at first, but it definitely added an interesting layer, I think.
It's that's a gut punch, and I feel like that was kind of unnecessary because I was like, why can't characters just be all good? Like, is that so hard? I don't know. Is it just me? Is like, can I just have a mentor character without a dark, shady past?
Yeah, I do see your point. Like, I guess I'm just used to, seeing some of the good mentor characters being seen as roguish compared to other people who are kind of like them. So I was just kind of not as phased by it, but I can understand how someone like you might want the mentor to just be like all good, because we haven't had a whole lot of that in some of these recent DC movies, like the ones that tend to be darker.
It's a pain in the ass because it feels like it's just kind of like, oh, don't worship, don't believe everything your mentor says. I was like, yeah, but he's helping the hero, and like, why do we have to make him out to be the villain when he's done nothing up to this point than to help the hero? Or I don't know. I'm just tired of like, mentor who's really going to be a bad guy or has some dark secret that he's been holding back from the heroes. And I'm like, I'm just kind of over that trope. I don't know about anyone else. That's just me. And the whole point of the wizard was that he was supposed to be the like all good. He was supposed to be the pedestal you have to get to. And that's the other thing is like, why can't we just have a character to aspire to be? Why do we have to make them like with a dark spot?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. It is an interesting subversion, but I will say that it does result in some unnecessary melodrama, like Billy being like super upset at the wizard Shazam and being like, "You lied to me, why don't you tell me all this?" And it starts to feel very Man of Steel-ish again, I guess you could say.
And the other thing is too, like, it also like causes friction in the family, like for no reason, because like they're like, well, if you can't trust Shazam, why couldn't you? If you couldn't trust the wizard, how can we trust you? And I'm like, where the hell did that come from?
Yeah, because like they've been a family for 2 years now, and all of a sudden they're not trusting him.
Well, they did. Like, there is a good reason. Like, I will forgive it because the director was smart enough to go like, oh, it'd be stupid if they all just suddenly turned on each other out of the blue. And it turns out that the two, like Calypso and her sister, are using like Pandora's box and letting out like the lies and fears and anxieties out on them, like sneaking them out there to like turn them on each other.
Yeah, it feels kind of similar to how, like, in the first Avengers movie, wasn't the Tesseract kind of amplifying the insecurities within each of the Avengers characters, leading them to, like, arguing and stuff?
It was the Mind Stone in Loki's scepter.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's what it was.
So it's kind of like that, but like it's going with the whole Greek mythology thing, so I'm a little more at peace with it.
Right. Yeah, like Greek mythology is something I'm not as fluent in, as like I'm not as super familiar with it as a bunch of people I know are, but it of course comes up in a lot of stuff I'm a fan of, like especially like these superhero stories. Like sometimes I'm never sure like what is this drawing from? I just kind of go with it, but like even as an outsider, I did think it was somewhat compelling seeing how it was amplifying their insecurities and causing all this friction. But it was also like partially frustrating to see, I guess.
I'll say that it is kind of nice that this time around they gave more for Mary to do, because she is like in the Marvel family. She is very much like the second one in charge. They did my gripe was in the last one they didn't give Mary enough to do in the first movie, but this time it's like they kind of made up for it with making her kind of like the real supporting character, with Freddie now like in the third wheel.
Yeah, I think that was a good choice because we got a lot of Freddie in the first one, and I like what they ended up doing with him, and he still does some stuff here, but yeah, making him I guess the one of the Shazamily with the third amount of focus was a good choice so that they could hone in on her and, you know, just change up the dynamic and focus a bit.
Yeah, and it is interesting to see like the sisters kind of being like also you like more or less whispering in Mary's ear in the whole like the power you wield is like not yours, and like he only gives it willingly. Like they're using like her own insecurities and also using with the Pandora's box to kind of like try to get her on their side.
Right, yeah. And I also thought it was cool how they let her, like the actress, play both the normal version and the superhero version. Like, I guess with the first movie, I didn't. You know, you see the adult versions of the rest of the Shazamily very briefly, so it's like I don't have all their faces ingrained per se, so it didn't really faze me that, like, I didn't really, like, the differences didn't really break my immersion, I guess, because I didn't really focus very much on it.
Yeah. And that's kind of the other thing, is that the rest of the family, again, feels a little more to the side. And it's more of a story of Billy and Mary. Bat-Mite.
Yeah. Like, there will be, like, a melodramatic moment, and then Bat-Mite will show up to break the tension, and it's like, oh, for the love of just go away for now.
Yeah. Like, literally, there's a moment where they're having a conversation, and Bat-Mite's like, oh, man, this is way too dramatic. Nyan Cat! And I'm like, we're doing a Nyan Cat meme in the middle of a drama scene?
Yeah, that was. Yeah, I did not like that very much. Like, I know that some people in the theater were kind of laughing at it, but I'm just sitting there being like, just put me out of my misery, like, right now.
Yeah. I'm like, freaking kill me right now. Yeah, so it is pretty cool that we do get to see more of like, it is more of a globetrotting thing, and actually what causes all this is like having the sisters Calypso and Hesperia manipulate Mary into letting them into the Rock of Eternity so they can destroy it.
Really great locations in this. Like, you know, with the first movie, we're very earthbound. We're mainly in Philadelphia. But here we go from there to other places like the Rock of Eternity, the Library of Eternity, Athens, and the Realm of the Gods. It's It kind of feels like it escalated between the first movie and this second one. Kind of comparable to like if the first Thor movie didn't have Asgard in it, I guess.
And I kind of like that because, again, it's kind of nice to have this kind of epic, and also it really plays the whole Billy's like, wow, I am not prepared for the outside world. I thought, Sylvana was going to be the biggest threat I had. No, these sisters are dangerous. I guess, like, the other thing we should mention is that this kind of runs simultaneously with Black Adam.
Yeah, like this explains why they're not there to deal with Black Adam while he's, like, doing all his stuff, being evil on Earth and just causing chaos.
Yeah, like, they're watching the TV, and they're like, it actually is, like, another thing they use with the Pandora's box is that there's that insecurity because they're seeing, like, the power. Billy is already, like, worried about the power of Shazam because he's like, if the wizard gave his power to that monster of watching him, like, just tear his way through the Justice Society, he's like, then maybe he was wrong.
Right. It does throw up some moral questions of, like, what should the wizard have done? Am I right? Am I wrong? Like, it does pose some questions for the characters to ask themselves. And, like the tone or not, it is a kind of a bold thing to do, to put them in this situation where they're really questioning their places. Although I could understand how one might feel that some of it feels a little bit forced, I guess. Does that make sense?
It does. The other thing, like, with this is that it kind of also shows of they are aware, and also, like, I like that family discussion where they talk about, like, Black Adam, like, seizing power, and they're like, well, why don't we do that? Like, we could do so much. Like, they literally reference, like, we could literally go to North Korea and save all those people. And, like, it's kind of this very adult discussion in the middle of this like family superhero movie of, like, why superheroes don't deal with real world problems.
Yeah, and it kind of changes our perception of what we saw in Black Adam.
It kind of really made me excited for that, like, they're on a collision course with him. And I do like that ending scene of where Billy's like watching the news right before the credits cuts the credits of, like, he's watching the news and it says Black Adam has seized control of Kahndaq, and he's like, and he's just like, yeah, I know I'm gonna have to. Him and me are gonna run into each other.
Yeah. They also throw another thing in here that he's wrestling with in bits of the movie, like, internally. Like, there's a discussion with the family that he has where he's like, there's a flashback to when the scene at the end of the first movie when they had Superman in the cafeteria. And I was actually pleasantly surprised that they showed Henry Cavill in this flashback, eating the lunch with them. And it felt kind of Spider-Man Homecoming, people taking selfies with him and whatnot. But Superman tries to give them some words of wisdom on what it means to be a hero. But in the, like, present day events of this movie, you have Billy being really angsty and being like, why doesn't Superman just, like, why is he always gotta be busy? Why doesn't he train us for all of this? Like, why doesn't he make time for us? And it's like, really, do we need this? Like, I just want, like, things to be cool. With my ideal form of Superman is one that people wouldn't be upset with, and it's like you could have that with these characters, but here they're, like, really upset about him being absent, and it's like, it's just so frustrating to watch.
Yeah. And there actually is, like, a cute moment where he's like, why isn't he here? Like, why isn't he here helping us? Or, like, why isn't he, like, why can't he be here with us? And Bat-Mite goes, yeah. He's like, he basically said, like, Bat-Mite basically says, like, look, dude, Superman's off, like, just off-world, and I came here to help you, I was here because I wanted like Bat-Mite just gives this moment of I came here because I knew you were going to be upset, so I'm here to cheer you up. And I'm like, well, that's nice of you, but you're really like making the movie really unbalanced here, bat prick.
Yeah. Well, it's like Bat-Mite is in there to provide some levity, but it's just like he feels really shoehorned in at times. And I get that that's supposed to be part of the intention, but it's just it makes some of this movie feel lopsided.
Yeah, and I think I know why they put him in here was because they saw how well Spider-Ham worked as a comedic relief in Spider-Verse, and then they thought we could do that too. And I'm like, you clearly didn't understand Spider-Verse then. Because there's even a moment where like you've seen the first Spider-Verse movie, right?
I mean I've been meaning to, but it's definitely on my list. That came out like 3-4 years ago. No, I'm kidding. I've seen it. Yeah.
All right, but there's like a scene where they're all talking of like that's the scene where it's like, oh, I get it now. Where there's literally a scene where they're all talking about like the people they lost, and they all look over at Spider-Ham, and he has this just look of just destruction on his face. He's like, kid, we've all lost somebody. And I'm like, oh no, oh no. I'm like, because that's the moment where you realize, oh, he's here to be funny, but they know when to cut the funny out and make it a serious moment.
Yeah, like he wasn't hamming it up in that moment. They really balanced it very well there.
Get out. Get out. You don't get to use that pun. You're better than that, Steven. Hamming it up. I do. You're better than that pun.
Yeah, this is kind of a tangent, but I remember years ago, like back in, I think this was back when Batman versus Superman was being reported or something. Like I was hanging out with some people from a Doctor Who club at the college I went to, and we were like talking about, geeky stuff, and we talked about like the upcoming like DC stuff, and one of them was like, I just want them to go full ham and cast comedic actors as these characters, like I guess like Superman or Black Adam or something. Just make it all comedic instead of just being serious like Man of Steel was.
Well, you kind of got your wish here.
But there is like a moment where Billy realizes that he shouldn't have to try to rely on like Superman helping him with everything. And this is like the thing that's been getting people making the DC and Marvel comparisons online. It's once again sparked a thing of like, oh, Spider-Man is just Iron Man Jr. and this is a commentary on that. And it's like, I don't know. You might be reaching there, bro. Like, I don't know about that. It's just like they might have made this just for this story, like this Superman Shazam thing. But what'd you think of the creatures that were in this? Like we had minotaurs, harpies, dragons. Like what'd you think of how they looked?
It was they were all looked pretty good. I mean, they're just here for the rest of the team to fight when the main villains aren't on screen, because Helen Mirren can only do so much with wires.
They look pretty good. Like it's a good mix of practical effects and CGI. Well, like it's not the type of CGI that looks too obvious. Like there might be some angles here and there, but overall it's just I feel like they really add to the fantasy feel of this setting they're trying to do.
Yeah, there's also like some scenes where Freddy as like Shazam Jr. is fighting a Minotaur, and like they smash right into an Oreo truck, like an Oreo delivery truck, and he's like, man, I wish it was the Martian doing this. I'm like, oh, that's a nice little reference to Martian Manhunter.
And there's also a moment where there's this random person on the street like seeing this fight happen, and it's none other than Samuel L. Jackson, and he's like, whoa, this truly is the fury of the gods.
And I was like, And I immediately said in the theater, "Go off."
Yeah, there's also like a Fruit Roll-Ups bug in this movie. Like, there's just some random bystander eating Fruit Roll-Ups, which is kind of funny because me and my friend were talking about a Men in Black movie recently where they included Fruit Roll-Ups, and it's like, I guess people still show them in movies like even today.
Yeah, like I was watching, I was like, they still make those?
Yeah, like it's been a while since I've seen them in an actual store, but whenever I do see them, like at a party or something, I'll be like, yeah, I'll have one and just finish it real quick.
So do you want to talk about like the end credit scenes?
Yeah, we can do that. Well, like the fight itself with like the two sisters wasn't really all that impressive to me anyway. Like it's just kind of all build up and then just kind of fizzled a bit. But yeah, we can talk about the credit scenes.
Yeah, I mean, like for real quick on the sister scene was like it's nothing really important because I feel like they kind of blew their cinematic load on like the henchmen fighting because there's like one great scene where like the Shazam family is like fighting along like a mountainside in Italy, like one of those like one of those roads along carved into a side of a mountain, and they're fighting all these monsters while at the same time trying to keep the civilians in the cars safe. And I was like, that was really well shot. I have a feeling they can't top that. And shocker, they couldn't. There's three. One in the middle of the initial credits, then one in the middle of the credits, and one at the very end. Which the very end credit was now there's a reason Bat-Mite there's the real reason why Bat-Mite was here. But so the first one isn't really special because it's more like Black Adam just chilling in Kahndaq, and he's heard about the news of what happened with the gods and whatnot, and he's like, coming after you, Batson.
Yeah, like Dwayne Johnson just with his serious look and just like that intensity in his eyes, just like the Jumanji look.
Yeah, he even does like the eyebrow raise when he hears like from one of his general, like the classic the WWE eyebrow raise.
Yeah.
When he hears like one of his generals go, "My lord, like Lord Adam, we've heard news of the Shazam family." He's like, "Hmm."
Yeah.
Mid-credit scene, a little more, and I think it builds to all this is um, the sisters who have been locked away again by the Shazam family. They get broken out, and this I like how it ties back to Black Adam, where it's Savannah with Mr. Mind and Mr. Adam now with Ivac from the Black Adam movie, and they're like, "Come on, let's you can join us in our taking of the Mystic Realms." And I'm like, "Oh, I guess we're building more to the Monster Society of Evil and the world of the Mystic Realms, like the realms of magic."
Yeah, just I guess some more deep cuts there. Yeah.
Yeah, nice to see Bill Burr back as Ivac from Black Adam.
Yeah.
And then we get to the final scene, and like there's a moment that was like, because I thought honestly in the movie where it felt like just choppy editing, where Bat-Mite goes, "Oh no," and then he blinks out, and you're like, "What the hell happened here?" And at this end credit scene, we find out what that was that Bat-Mite got yanked away. He got yanked away by some unknown force, and that unknown force was like he's in this like this emptiness, and he's like, "Oh God, I was trying to run away from this. I was trying to enjoy myself. I didn't want to see this. I was trying to get away from you." And it's it's this giant shadow that we see, like this giant shadow and a pair of red eyes just kind of glow. And it's like, I was like, oh my, that's the Anti-Monitor.
Yeah, it was very unexpected, but really cool that they're going this route because we've gotten that with the Arrowverse, but it'll be interesting to see like how they handle it here.
Yeah. For those not initiated for why that was such a big thing, the Anti-Monitor is a universe-consuming being from an antimatter universe that caused the first universal reboot in DC Comics, Crisis on Infinite Earths, which many of you, like Steven had just aforementioned, was kind of done haphazardly by this in the Arrowverse.
Yeah, like the Arrowverse version was clunky at points. Like I was underwhelmed by how they utilized Kevin Conroy's Batman, but I really liked how they handled the Superman in it, and like some of the cameos from like other movies and shows were like really cool, even if they were blink and you miss it. But yeah.
But yeah, this like a big budget Crisis on Infinite Earths. I'm all in.
Yeah, and I mean, we have like the Flash movie coming up this summer in our universe, so maybe that'll sort of play into that.
Yeah. Did you have a favorite of the three end credit scenes?
Yeah, I think the Anti-Monitor one is probably it. Like, even though Bat-Mite's presence throughout this movie was just so off the wall and unnecessary, like, it was sort of worth it, if only for this last credit scene at the end.
Yeah, because now it's like, because now I was after the movie, I was kind of sitting there thinking, did Anti-Monitor destroy the DC universe he came from, and that's why he's like so hyperactive and like so excited to be in like Shazam's universe because it's almost like his.
Yeah, it definitely fuels the speculation itch, and yeah, like I'm just loving how these Shazam movies have been really reaching for the really out there, more comic booky stuff.
I bet you $50 that this is how they reintegrate. Like this is how they re-tie in the Snyderverse.
Oh yeah, I guess that is possible. Yeah, because there's been a lot of uncertainty with that. Like his version of Justice League was like head, shoulders, and a torso better than the theatrical version. So like with all that good reception, like I don't know what the if the numbers were enough, but it would be really satisfying for lots of fans, I'm sure, if they found some way to like integrate it again.
Yeah. And I imagine like doing Crisis is how they do it because like that's the only way, right? That's the only way you could make heads or tails of like reboot this continuity is with a story that rebooted continuity.
Right. And for years we've been assuming that like the Flash movie would involve like the Flashpoint storyline. So I don't know if this is going to be like a welding of those two events and sort of just a blanket term that incorporates like both of them somehow, but yeah, like it'll be interesting, I guess.
I think what it's going to happen is the Flash movie is going to be like a version of Flashpoint, and it's going to like open the door to like that's how the Anti-Monitor like enters the DC universe, and that's where it kind of like I think it's like the prelude to Infinite to Crisis.
Okay, yeah, that's definitely a possibility. I guess you could say there are infinite possibilities.
Steven.
No, I think I said everything I wanted to say. I guess what we have left is the final thoughts and score out of 10 and unit of measurement. So what are your final thoughts, score out of 10, and unit of measurement for Shazam Fury of the Gods?
I would say for me that this story is, I feel like it's kind of almost like a step down, but not by much of the first movie, probably because of the overdose of Bat-Mite. But it does leave a lot of like good storytelling for like family dynamics as well as a taste of what's to come, and it really makes you excited for seeing Billy and Adam clash in the next film. So I would say my rating for this movie is gonna be 7 neon cats out of 10.
Yeah, I'm actually on the same page with that score. For me, it's like 7 out of 10 Oreos, because the first Shazam movie is probably an 8 for me. Like it's pretty good, but this one, like you said, and like I've been thinking, does feel like a bit of a step down, but not by too much. So yeah, I think 7 out of 10 is fair.
Yeah.
All right. Well, before we do the plugs, I actually have an email from a listener. So This is from Oliver once again, who says, "Dear Delayed Replay Steven, just listened to the latest episode of Delayed Replay. Really enjoy the show. Keep up the good work. In the last episode, you mentioned that Marvin the Martian got penguins under his command. What the penguins reminded me of was Club Penguin, Disney's child-friendly social media that was shut down in 2017 after 12 years. How much do you know about Club Penguin? Do you have any favorite aspects? Love the show. Keep up the good work. Oliver Titcombe from that other universe where the films you reviewed got delayed." So, are you familiar with Club Penguin at all, Mr. Multiverse?
Yeah, I'm familiar with some of it. I remember, like, one of the last days before they shut it down, there was, like, an anti-Trump rally on the site right after Trump got voted in as president.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I was not expecting that for this apparently kid-friendly site. Like, Club Penguin is something I've been vaguely aware of for a while, but never really tried. But, like, I think it was like one of those things where, like, all the other kids in school maybe mentioned it, and I was like, oh, I don't want to try because it's too mainstream. I'm gonna do my own thing, and, like, a stupid thing like that, probably. Um, but yeah, like, basically the only Club Penguin for me is the Iceberg Lounge. Like, I'm very privy to much of what Club Penguin itself is all about, I guess. All right. Well, yeah, thanks for writing in again, Oliver. Great to hear from you again, and glad you're still listening. Yeah, so I guess we'll do the plugs now. So thanks for being on this episode, Mr. Multiverse. Where can people find your stuff?
They can find me on the Mr. Multiverse YouTube channel, and go head on over to my Patreon, where you have shown up in 2 episodes of The Requalizers, where it's a podcast that's very similar to this, only we do ideas for requels, reboot sequel movies, much like Halloween 2018, and kind of play with ideas on how to make a requel to a movie. The 2 that Steven has shown up in is the first episode, Jaws, and the 3rd episode involving Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah, those were very fun. Like it makes for a good mental exercise. Like, what would the studios try if they did something like this today, and what would be the best way or the worst way to go about it, I guess?
Yeah.
Right, so yeah, people go ahead and check that out, and I'll link them in the show notes as usual. As for me, you can email delayedreplaypodcast@gmail.com if you have any thoughts on, I don't know, Oreos. Like, just email us about your favorite variation of Oreos, I guess. And you can also find me on Yes Shift, a podcast I do with my dad where we talk about Yes and people and bands related to Yes. We recently had Oliver Wakeman on our show. It was such a fun interview that went on for like almost an hour and 20 minutes. Yeah, lots of fun. And we also did something fun on April 1st, so go ahead and check that out in the feeds. Again, if you can go to facebook.com/yesshift, or if you want just the audio, anchor.fm/yesshift. And there's also a YouTube channel now. I just launched that and am trickling stuff in. And on Wednesday, April 13th, me and my dad are going to be interviewing Bill Bruford, the first drummer of Yes. So that'll be on the Drum Talk TV Facebook page, and will be broadcast simultaneously on the Yes Shift Facebook page. So yeah, go ahead and check that out. Stay in the loop. My friend Jesse Bennett has a podcast called Question, Possible Answer, and we talked about the movie Clock Stoppers. So that was a lot of fun. It should be out in the feeds at some point in the near future. And yeah, I think that's everything for now. And the next delayed replay episode, which comes out on April 23rd, is Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse Part 1. But without further delay, have a good day.